I got this toy by a friend of mine. It is a toy car. You see that it looks like very much indeed like the car, the title character from the Disney movie Cars. And you see it has 53 written on it and all that. And it does really look the part. But there's a battery holder inside there. So we're guessing something electronic, and indeed, if you open it up, hang on, it reveals a keyboard. Notice a conceptual problem in it. Yes, if a car should move, it does not move. It only has a keyboard here and a dot matrix LED screen. It's 8 by 8, right? And if you turn it on, it says something, but it will say something using its speaker on the bottom, but it will say something in Russian, so I will have to translate it for you. So let's try this again.
Привет! Я супермашинка! Вперед на старт! Нас ждет супергонка! Выбери программу.
Yeah, so what it said right there was, hello, I'm the supercar, then a whirring noise, then let's go to the start.
Вперед! Навстречу приключениям!
Let's go to the start, the race is waiting, then select program, then forward to adventure, and it will say something else forward, like here. It says to press the buttons here, and then made a beeping noise, and it will say something now.
Возвращайся скорее! Пока!
Ah, right. So it said several things, then sung this jolly song, and then turned off, because the text you saw scrolled there is exactly what happens when you press the off button. So let's turn it on, and let's press some buttons, I suppose.
Привет! Я супермашинка!
Let's press alphabet.
Посмотри на мой экран, и ты увидишь, как пишутся буквы и цифры.
So it said that you should look at its screen and see how letters and numbers are written. So let's try.
Нажми на кнопку.
And then it said to press the button. So let's try A.
А. А.
So it says the letter, then a jingle, then it draws the letter here, and
Вперед! Навстречу приключениям!
yeah, and now it is back to the loop waiting for key presses. So let's press B.
Нажимай на кнопку Б.
One thing you may have noticed is that even if is doing something, you can press a button and it will switch to whatever it is you wanted it to do, which is rather extraordinary. So let's try
Давай
words.
выучим слова, соответствующие каждой букве.
It said that we should learn the words corresponding to each letter. So let's try A. Again.
А. Арбуз.
Uh,
А. Р. Б. У. З.
so it said that
Арбуз.
the word corresponding to A is arbuz, which is watermelon. So let's try
Один.
1. I wonder.
Один.
Oh, right. It will spell the numbers.
Один.
And I seem to remember that in these several sections, it did ask to press to spell the
Вперед! Навстречу
numbers.
приключениям!
Shut up. Let's try test.
Давай узнаем, крутой ли ты гонщик. Пройди все задания, и ты окажешься на финише. Найди букву Щ
So it said something about being a cool racer, and then said to find the letter this one,
Ща.
right?
Правильно. Другой вопрос.
Another
Найди
question.
букву R.
Let's try this one.
R. Здорово. Другой вопрос. Найди букву Ч.
Yeah, I'm bored of this already. Let's try something else.
Давай проверим, запомнил ли ты, как пишутся слова. R.
How are
Набери
words spelled?
слово рыба.
It said to spell the word fish.
R.
R?
И. Б. А.
That's what it was. And indeed it is, according to this
Другой вопрос.
thing.
И краткое.
Let's try
Набери
poems.
слово йогурт.
I don't remember seeing this.
Давай выучим стихотворение. Нажми на кнопку с буквой или цифрой.
It said to press a key with buttons or numbers. So let's try number 2.
Цифра 2, как лебедь белый. В море цифр гуляет смело. Шейку круто изогнула, хвостик кверху завернула.
Right, so it will say some sort of text about one of these buttons. And
Вперед! Навстречу приключениям!
oh, shut up, please. Right, so there are several texts for each of the buttons, which is quite extraordinary. And now it's
Нажимай
about
на кнопки.
rules of traffic. Let's try that.
Мы будем часто путешествовать, поэтому я хочу научить тебя правилам дорожного движения. Нажимай на кнопки с цифрами и узнаешь основные правила дорожного движения и поведения в транспорте.
So it says that we shall be traveling a lot, so we should learn rules of traffic and...
Вперед! Навстречу приключениям!
Oh, come on, please. Right, let's try this. Number 1.
Делаем ребятам предостережение. Выучите срочно правила движения, чтоб не волновались каждый день родители, чтоб спокойны были за рулем водители.
Right, so it says some sort of poem whilst this animation plays. Let's try number 2.
Должен каждый пешеход знать, что зебра – переход. Чтоб дорогу перейти, нужно вам его найти.
Right, so it said something about the zebra crossing, and I suppose it will do the same for all of those.
Вперед!
Oh, I can't be bothered.
Навстречу! Возвращайся скорее! Пока!
Like, right. So, as you may have probably noticed, it just teaches some things about the alphabet and some things about rules of traffic movement. And I mean, it's not going to keep many people interested for a long time. I mean, I'm bored of it already, so let's take it to bits, I suppose. Right, so how does this come apart? I'm seeing screws here, and I suppose, yep, there are 3 more screws there. So let's try disassembling it. I don't know who manufactures these things. There's certainly no labels about it on the actual casing here. Maybe something in the battery compartment. I'm not sure, actually. It takes 3 AAAs, I mean double A's, even more of the old power. And, yep, nothing interesting there. And I've always seen 3 AAAs or double A's as a little bit of cop out to get somewhere around 5 volts to the internals. So I'm guessing that there's going to be a sudden jump cut because I have run out of space on the camcorder, so let's continue disassembling this. But I mean, we already know a little bit about what's going to be inside, don't we? I mean, I'm going to attempt to draw what I think is going to be inside here. So it's probably going to be the battery. 4.5 volts. And they're going to go to some sort of chip here, which is probably going to be some sort of chip on board, I believe. And it's going to have connections to a speaker, which was that annoying thing that we heard earlier. Then it's going to have, I believe, 16 connections to a dot matrix LCD, LED display, which is this thing here. LEDs, and it's going to be connected to the negative terminal, and then we're going to have a lot of the connections for the keyboard, because there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's 10 by 5, it's 50 keys here. So that's going to be a lot of connections, but not 50, I believe. I'm going to suspect that they're using some sort of multiplexing technique. So there's a lot of connections going on to the keyboard. And how a keyboard and these things is usually made is on the PCB itself. They're going to have some sort of pattern, like if this is the one connection and this is the other connection, they're going to have some sort of pattern of concentric circles, I believe, that is connected to opposing sides of the connections here, and they're going to have some sort of how do you call it, a carbon pad pressing down on these, so that when it's pressed it shorts these two together. So that's how they usually detect that a key is being pressed, but we shall find out later. Whoa, another jump cut, because the space on the camcorder has run out again, and also because the battery has run out. I've replaced the camcorder, so you might see some difference. You probably will, because they have been configured differently, but let's continue disassembling this. And let's see what lies inside. We're not expecting a lot. Oh yes, there is not a lot. So here's the keyboard. You can probably see how it's laid out here. Much like I said, it's got a sort of shape here with pads, and on the other side these are carbonized pads that will press onto this, and the whole thing is connected to another board, an adapter board, via a lot of connections that are labeled, let's see, it's A, B, and C. The A goes from 0 to 7, the B goes from 0 to 4, and the C goes from 4 to 7. I don't know what that means, I'm slightly confused by it, but let's continue. And here are the wheels that don't go around. I wonder if I can take one from here. I don't know why, but let's do it anyways. Perhaps you could use it for something. But yeah, these aren't gonna win any races, I believe. So let's put that back here. Oh, actually, let's not. But I am not seeing any active electronics in here. So presumably it all goes up to this part here. So let's disassemble that as well. And actually, I was telling a lie earlier, because it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screws here. So, and there's one more for the mechanism that moves. And yep, there is, I'm seeing a circuit board there. We already know that because a ribbon cable is going into it. But let's take out these 6 screws. Interestingly, they are some different screws, which is surprising. I would have thought that for something like this, they'd have as minimal cost per unit goal as possible, so they would use the same screw for everything, but apparently not. So there are 2 more screws, and if we take them out, oh, this one is not coming out. That's okay, because we can still see what lives inside. Oh yeah, there's not a lot in this. So what we're looking at here is the dot matrix display and a very small capacitor, presumably for smoothing purposes. But the chip is under there, I presume. So let's take this circuit board off. Let's see what's under there. I mean, it's probably going to look the same as I showed you earlier, but let's check. Oh no, it's not. There is another chip here with 4 what look like transistors, because there's a resistor near them. But more transistors with resistors, and there's the connections for the display. I like the fact that how they've drilled holes in here for no apparent reason. And there's the capacitor that's tacked on here. Right, I'm going to draw this out and I'll be back in a moment. Well, that took surprisingly long. Actually, what I discovered here is that this small chip right here is actually a flash memory chip, and if I bring in the data sheet here, it's a 32 megabyte, it's megabit CMOS serial flash, so it would have I don't know actually. It says here about 33 million bits, or 16 million blocks of 2 bits it can store. So this small chip actually holds the, I don't know actually, does hold the program for the CPU or the only the sound samples that we heard earlier. But anyway, this chip connects to the CPU using 4 data lines, I believe. And I got confused here for a moment. I thought that it was connected to VCC, but actually it's connected, its power pin here is connected to the CPU itself, and it's using some sort of internal transistor, I believe. I know that it's a transistor because I measured and it had a 0.8 voltage drop across it. It's connected to VCC, so the CPU can actually turn off the flash when, presumably when it's not running. And other things worthy of note. Well, there's the smoothing capacitor that we saw here, and another tiny little one here. And there are 8 data lines coming through, each one coming through a 1K resistor to the basis of 8 transistors here. They are there and there. And I looked it up, and those are common NPN transistors. SS8050, which it actually says here on the silk screen. And these are marked Y1. So yeah, these are NPN transistors. And they are driving one of the halves of the dot matrix display here. The other half, interestingly, goes to the CPU, but the same lines are also going through the ribbon cable connector here, the little board-to-board interconnect, to the keyboard here. So what the CPU is doing there is it's multiplexing between displaying images on the display and reading from the keyboard. And it's surprising because the camera didn't pick up on that. So it's definitely higher than 50 Hertz, a lot higher than 50 Hertz actually, because 50 Hertz is the city frequency, the mains frequency, and the camera picks up quite well on that. But anyway, also, interestingly, even though one of the halves of the display is connected through these transistors, the speaker at the bottom is actually connected directly to the CPU. But I'm confused here. Why does it require transistors for the display? Presumably because it can't handle the high current. But why can it handle the high current needed to drive the speaker? I'm quite confused by that, but yeah, so that's what inside this toy car. I think I should reassemble it, and I've just spotted the logo on here, and I should actually look it up, shouldn't I? Yes, one moment. I'll look it up, and I'll be back in a moment. Okay, I reassembled the thing, and unfortunately I wasn't able to find out what that logo meant. It is FLD, the circuit board was marked QC1157R1, and it was dated as 2013-0307. So, this thing is not that old. I'm filming this in 2018, so it's about 5 years old. So it's not very old. And I'm like why they have this MX25L3206E serial flash. I'm quite surprised that they do have that. It's quite astonishing how a lot of samples, I would say, are recorded in this. So let's just see if it works again. Yeah, it does. Now, just shut up, please. So there we go. That is the Chinese, I would presume Chinese, knockoff of Lightning McQueen, I seem to remember, is the name of the character that they've ripped off. I mean, technically, it's pretty impressive. I don't know what this was sold for. I'm not guessing a lot because, it's a Chinese ripoff. But there is actually a lot of stuff in there. I mean, you wouldn't normally get that. You'd normally not get a separate flash chip. You'd get all of that packed into one chip on board. I'm surprised that they even had a display here, or a keyboard. So, this thing is really quite astonishing technically. From the gameplay side of things, not so much. I don't think that any children would be particularly impressed by this, which is probably why I got this. But then again, I don't know, because I'm going to be giving this to the person who gave it to me, because they have another child who they believe might be interested in this. I will be surprised if they will find this that interesting, but If they don't, I will get it back. So, bonus points for that. So, there we go. That is the Chinese ripoff of the movie, which has nothing to do with alphabet, nothing to do with education at all, but it still has these options. Quite interesting, this stuff. I quite like it.